$2 trillion vanished overnight. This isn't an abstract figure. It's more than the GDP of most countries in the world. These are the savings of millions of people who believed in the future of digital money. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all altcoins, everything collapsed simultaneously. The reason? A global ban on cryptocurrencies. As you watch this video, laws that could flip the crypto market upside down are being discussed in government offices. The regulators aren't sleeping. They see how cryptocurrencies are growing, how ordinary people are transferring money into digital assets, how banks are losing control. And this scares them, because whoever controls the money controls everything. China has already taken the first step, a complete ban on mining and trading. India has tried several times to introduce draconian laws. The US is increasing pressure through taxes and exchange regulations. This isn't a conspiracy theory. These are facts. The question isn't if governments will want to stop crypto. The question is when it will happen and how harshly they will act. Today, we will break down this scenario piece by piece. You will learn why it's beneficial for the authorities to ban cryptocurrencies, what tools they have to do it, and what will happen to your money when it happens. Because if you hold even a single dollar in crypto, you need to understand all the risks, not someday, right now. Let's start with the main question. Why do governments even need to ban cryptocurrencies? After all, they are just digital assets. People trade them, invest, earn, or lose money. Why should the state care? The difference is actually huge, and it concerns the very foundation of power. Money isn't just pieces of paper or numbers in an account. It's a tool of control. When a central bank prints money, it manages the entire country's economy. It can stimulate growth or cool down an overheated market. It can track every large transaction, freeze suspicious accounts, impose sanctions. The entire financial system is built so that the state always sees the movement of money and can intervene at any moment. And then Bitcoin appears, a decentralized currency that no one controls. There's no central bank, no single server to shut down. Transactions occur directly between people without intermediaries. And the scariest thing for the authorities, they cannot simply freeze your bitcoins if you have the private keys. This wrests one of the main tools of power from the state's hands. When the crypto market was worth $100 billion, they could turn a blind eye. It was a toy for enthusiasts and speculators. But when the market grew to $3 trillion, when large companies started holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets, when ordinary people started transferring serious money there, it became a threat. A real, tangible threat to the financial system that has existed for centuries. Let's take a concrete example. El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender in 2021. A small country, but a precedent was set. What if tomorrow Argentina does the same? Turkey? Any country with an unstable national currency? The central banks of those countries would lose their monopoly on money, and therefore lose control over the economy. For the authorities, this is an existential threat. Add to this the problem of money laundering. Cryptocurrencies are indeed used for illegal operations, drug trafficking, arms trade, terrorism financing. All of this is easier to do through cryptocurrencies than through the banking system. Yes, the majority of crypto users are ordinary people who just invest or transfer money. But the authorities see primarily the risks, and these risks give them a moral justification for harsh measures. There's a third point, taxes. When you keep money in a bank, the state always knows how much you have. When you earn, the bank automatically reports to the tax authority. The entire system is transparent to the authorities. With cryptocurrencies, everything is more complicated. You can transfer millions across borders in seconds without paying a cent in taxes. You can hide assets so that no audit can find them. For tax services, this is a nightmare. For governments, a loss of billions in budget revenue. The conclusion is simple. Cryptocurrencies undermine the three pillars of state power: control over money, control over crime, and control over taxes. The more the crypto market grows, the stronger this threat becomes, and sooner or later, governments will decide that enough is enough, that it's time to act. Now, for the most interesting part, how exactly can a government ban cryptocurrencies? Many think it's impossible. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized, they exist on the blockchain, you can't just turn them off. And that's true. But governments don't need to break the blockchain. They just need to make it so ordinary people can't use crypto. And they have enough tools for that. The first tool, crypto exchanges. The vast majority of people buy and sell cryptocurrency through exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken. These are centralized companies with offices, servers, and bank accounts. The government can simply order them to cease operations in the country. That's exactly what China did, shut down all exchanges, blocked their websites, and forbade banks from servicing crypto companies. Within months, a huge market simply disappeared. You might say, you can use foreign exchanges? Theoretically, yes. But the government can block access to their websites at the internet provider level. It can forbid banks from transferring money to these exchanges, and most importantly, it can introduce criminal liability for using cryptocurrencies. And that's where things get really interesting, because it's one thing to store bitcoins in a wallet, but it's quite another to actually use them when you could get real prison time for it. The second tool, the banking system. To withdraw money from cryptocurrency into real life, you need to convert it into regular money. And for that, you need a bank. The government can oblige all banks to block any transactions related to cryptocurrencies. Received a transfer from a crypto exchange? Account frozen? Investigation begins. Trying to cash out money after selling bitcoins? Denied. Banks will be forced to comply because they operate under a state-issued license. There are already precedents in Russia where banks blocked accounts of people who received transfers with notes related to cryptocurrency. This isn't a total ban yet, but the mechanism is already working. Now, imagine such a system is introduced universally and tightened to the extreme. You can store as many bitcoins as you want in a cold wallet, but you won't be able to turn them into food, an apartment, a car. They will become useless numbers. The third tool, mining. Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies exist thanks to miners. These are people and companies that spend huge amounts of electricity maintaining the network. The government can ban mining at the legislative level. It can cut off electricity to companies engaged in mining. It can confiscate equipment. China did exactly that. In one moment, it turned off half of the world's Bitcoin mining capacity. The fourth tool, pressure on businesses. Today, more and more companies accept cryptocurrency as a means of payment. Tesla accepted Bitcoin for a while. Microsoft, many online stores work with crypto. The government can forbid companies from accepting cryptocurrencies under threat of fines and criminal prosecution. In one day, hundreds of thousands of crypto acceptance points would disappear. Bitcoin would transform from a medium of exchange into a speculative asset you can only trade amongst yourselves. Here's a concrete example of how this works in combination. In 2017, China started tightening the screws. First, they closed local exchanges. Then, they banned initial coin offerings, ICOs. Then, they started putting pressure on miners. In 2021, they delivered the final blow. A complete ban on all cryptocurrency operations. The result? The world's largest crypto market disappeared within a few months. Millions of Chinese lost access to their assets or were forced to use complex workarounds with enormous risks. And that's just one country. Now imagine the USA, the European Union, Japan, and the UK doing this simultaneously. This isn't science fiction. In 2023, at the G20 meeting, coordination of actions on crypto regulation was actively discussed. Countries understand that acting alone is ineffective. If you ban it in one country, business just moves to another. But if you ban it everywhere at once, there's nowhere to go. Conclusion. Governments have real tools to ban cryptocurrencies, and they are already using them. They don't need to break the blockchain or hack wallets. It's enough to cut people off from the ability to buy, sell, and use cryptocurrencies in real life. And when all these tools are applied simultaneously, the result is devastating. Now, for the scariest part, what will happen to the market the moment a global ban is announced? Because this won't be a smooth descent. It will be a crash the likes of which financial markets have never seen, and the consequences will affect not only those holding cryptocurrency, but the entire global economy. The first minutes after the ban announcement will be chaotic. The news will spread through social media instantly. People from all over the world will simultaneously rush to exchanges to sell their assets. Bitcoin, which was, say, at $60,000, will fall to $40,000 in the first hour, then to 20, then to 10. Sell orders will pour in by the millions, but there will be almost no buyers. Who would buy an asset that was just banned? Exchanges won't handle the load. Servers will start crashing from the traffic surge. People won't be able to log into their accounts, won't be able to place orders, won't be able to withdraw money. Panic will ensue. Forums and chats will explode with messages that exchanges aren't working. Money is gone. It's a hacker attack. Trust will completely collapse. Altcoins will suffer even more. Ethereum could lose 80 to 90% of its value in a day. Small altcoins will go to zero entirely. Projects people invested in for years will become useless. Decentralized finance platform tokens, non-fungible tokens, in-game currencies, everything will collapse simultaneously. Because if you can't trade Bitcoin, what's the point of all the other cryptocurrencies? In the first 24 hours, over $1 trillion will evaporate from the market. This doesn't mean someone took it. It just disappears. Because the value of cryptocurrencies is an agreement between people. When the agreement breaks down, the value falls to zero. It's like with works of art. A painting is worth $1 million as long as someone is willing to pay $1 million. If tomorrow no one wants to buy it, it's worth zero. Next, margin calls and liquidations will begin. Millions of people trade crypto with leverage. They take loans from the exchange to buy more assets. When the price falls, the exchange automatically sells their positions to repay the debt. In a crash of this magnitude, liquidations will cascade. Each liquidation is a new wave of selling that pushes the price even lower, triggering new liquidations. This is called a cascade effect, and it's impossible to stop. Large investors will also suffer. Hedge funds that held Bitcoin as part of their portfolio will incur huge losses. Companies like MicroStrategy, which bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, will lose most of their value. The stocks of these companies will crash on the stock market. Investors will panic and start selling shares of other tech companies. The crash will spill over to traditional markets. Here's a concrete example from reality showing how fragile the crypto market is. In November 2022, the FTX exchange went bankrupt. Just one exchange. There was no global ban. Just the company ran out of money due to fraud by its founder. And what happened? Bitcoin fell 20% in a week. Altcoins lost up to 50%. Billions of dollars evaporated. Thousands of people lost all their savings stored on the exchange. Now multiply the scale of that event by hundreds. Not one exchange closes, but all exchanges. Not in one country, but worldwide. Not due to fraud, but by government order. This will be a financial tsunami that wipes out $2 trillion in a matter of days. The social consequences will also be catastrophic. Millions of people invested not play money, but real savings into cryptocurrencies. Some were saving for retirement. Some were putting money aside for their children's education. Some took out loans to buy Bitcoin at the peak. All these people will become bankrupt in an instant. A wave of despair will begin, like after major financial crashes. Conclusion. The market crash following a global ban won't be just a price drop. It will be a systemic collapse affecting millions of people and potentially triggering a serious financial crisis. This isn't a question of if, but when and how harshly. Now, for the most important part, What should you do? How to protect your money? And is there even a future for cryptocurrencies after such a scenario? First, you need to understand, blockchain as a technology won't die. The Bitcoin network will continue to operate, even if it's banned worldwide. Because it's decentralized, thousands of computers worldwide store a copy of the blockchain and process transactions. To completely destroy Bitcoin, you'd have to turn off every single one of these computers. And that's physically impossible. But here's the paradox. The technology will be alive, but the practical value of cryptocurrencies will fall to almost zero. Because money isn't just a record on a blockchain. Money is what you can exchange for goods and services. If you can't legally exchange Bitcoin for food, an apartment, a car, what use is it? Yes, you can store the private keys and know you have 10 Bitcoins, but in reality, you won't be able to do anything with them. Of course, a black market will appear. It always does. People will start exchanging cryptocurrency through peer-to-peer platforms, meeting in person, transferring cash. Underground exchangers will emerge, risking prison for a commission. New technologies to bypass blocks will appear. Crypto enthusiasts won't give up just like that. But let's be realistic. The black market is a tiny fraction of the legal market. When the U.S. introduced prohibition, underground alcohol production didn't disappear. But the scale is incomparable to the legal industry before the ban. The same will happen with cryptocurrencies. Yes, hardcore users will continue, but millions of ordinary people will simply leave. Trading volumes will shrink by 90 to 95%. Interestingly, some countries might take a different path. Instead of a complete ban, they will create their own digital currencies, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Essentially, these are cryptocurrencies controlled by the state. All the logic of the blockchain is preserved, but control remains with the central bank. China has already launched the digital yuan. The European Union is working on a digital euro. The US is discussing a digital dollar. This is a genius move from the authorities' perspective. They get all the advantages of cryptocurrencies: fast transactions, low fees, digitization of the economy. But at the same time, they retain full control. Every transaction is visible to the state. Money can be instantly frozen or confiscated. The currency can be programmed to be spent only on certain goods. It's crypto without freedom. When state digital currencies become a reality, governments will have another argument against Bitcoin. Why do you need a dangerous, unregulated cryptocurrency when we have a safe, state-backed digital currency? Most people will choose the official version because it's more convenient and legal. Now, for concrete actions for those holding cryptocurrency right now. First and foremost, diversification. If all your capital's in crypto, you're playing Russian roulette. No return is worth the risk of losing everything in one day. Even if you believe in Bitcoin's future, holding more than 10 to 20% of your portfolio in it is madness. Transfer part of your money into traditional assets, stocks of large companies, bonds, real estate, gold. It's boring but reliable. Yes, you won't make 1,000% profit in a year. But you also won't lose everything overnight. Financial literacy isn't about making the maximum profit. It's about not losing what you already have. If you hold crypto on exchanges, withdraw it to cold wallets. Exchanges can go bankrupt, be hacked, or be ordered by the government to freeze accounts. When cryptocurrency is in your personal wallet, you have at least some control. Yes, you won't be able to sell it easily, but at least you won't lose it due to an exchange collapse. Follow the news. If you see signs of tightening regulation, countries discussing bans, introducing new taxes, putting pressure on banks, that's a signal. Don't wait for the storm to hit. Sell gradually, take profits, or at least break even. It's better to regret selling early than not being able to sell at all. And most importantly, don't invest money you can't afford to lose. This is the golden rule of investing, but it's especially relevant in crypto. The crypto market is a high-stakes casino. You can win a lot. You can lose everything. If you're investing your last money or taking a loan to buy Bitcoin, you're not an investor, you're a roulette player. Face the truth, the world is changing, but not always in the direction we want. The idea of decentralized money, free from state control, is beautiful. But the reality is that states won't give up control without a fight, and they have all the tools to win that fight. This doesn't mean you need to completely abandon cryptocurrencies, but it means you need to be a realist. Don't believe in fairy tales that Bitcoin will replace all the world's money. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket, and always have an exit plan in case the situation doesn't go according to the scenario you're counting on. $2 trillion can disappear overnight. This isn't fantasy. It's a real risk that needs to be considered. And if you understand this, if you are prepared for such a scenario, then you can continue to hold crypto. But hold it consciously, with your eyes open, understanding all the risks. Remember, the market doesn't forgive naivety. It doesn't forgive greed. It doesn't forgive those who think they know best. Only those who know how to manage risks survive. Those who don't put everything on one card. Those who are ready to retreat in time. If you found this video useful, like and subscribe to the channel. Here we analyze the real risks of financial markets without rose-tinted glasses. Write in the comments what portion of your portfolio you hold in cryptocurrencies and how you plan to protect your money. Let's discuss it together. Because financial literacy isn't about getting rich quick. It's about preserving what you have and gradually growing it. Thanks for watching. Take care of your money.